Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another epic ranking. And today we will be discussing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. Woot woot. Yeah, I know. An amazing franchise. Well, no, not really. It's a decent horror franchise. Not one of my favorites, but is decent enough, right? So for those of you who may not know, a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre dropped today on Netflix, or at least today, as in the day I'm recording this. Just got done watching it about an hour ago, and I'm ready to bring my thoughts about it and the rest of the franchise to you. How lucky you must feel. So yeah, this franchise is decent. I like a fair few of these films. There are some I absolutely do not like at all, and there are some that I think are pretty good. So where does this new one place? Let's find out. So coming in last place, which should be a surprise to absolutely nobody who's watched this franchise, is going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the next generation. Straight up, what the crap is this movie? I physically don't understand how to describe how awful this movie is. This is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. This movie's utter garbage. The only thing that makes this movie worthwhile in the slightest is that you get to see Matthew McConaughey go so off the rails and do stuff like this. That is the only thing that is good about this movie, is that 2-second clip. Coming away with 8th place is going to be Leatherface, the prequel to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I just could not get into this movie. I've tried watching this movie twice, both times. I just couldn't get into it. I don't know why. It's like this road trip whodunit movie, trying to show you the origins of Leatherface, which in and of itself I don't want to see. So when you give me a generic, boring movie that I'm not really into, you just fall flat on your face. And it's not even that good of a mystery anyways, so I am sorry, Leatherface, but this is where you will place. That means coming in 7th place is going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Beginning, the prequel to the remake. Now, like the movie I just discussed, I just don't really think a prequel to the remake was necessary or needed. I mean, it's just generic Texas Chainsaw stuff, but they're shoving in all these explanations for stuff from that remake. So it feels overcrowded and just boring, and I just did not care for it. There is some nice gore in this movie, I will give it that. When I watch the remake for this movie, I'm never going to be like, oh yeah, I want to check out The Beginning, because that's a good companion piece to this movie. No. That's just never a thought I will have. Next up on our list is going to be Leatherface, or Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. I think out of all of these movies, this one's just the most forgettable. It's just Texas Chainsaw stuff. Run-of-the-mill Texas Chainsaw stuff. Like, everything in this movie has been done in the first two. It's just more of the same. So if you're on for more of the same, here's some more of it. It's just bland. And so I can get some enjoyment out of this movie. I don't think it's bad. I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just generic. It's the most generic movie in this franchise. Some good things about it, though, is the portrayal of Leatherface is pretty decent, whereas the ones in the lower films, not really The Beginning, but certainly in Leatherface and certainly in the next generation, Leatherface was not portrayed well at all. In 3, I can say Leatherface was portrayed quite well. And then you also have some nice actors thrown into the mix, like Viggo Mortensen and Ken Foree. They are both pretty good in this movie. So yeah, decent enough movie, but not the best in this series. Coming in 5th place, or dead middle in this list, is going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022, the brand new one, the one that just released today as the time of this filming. This is definitely the goriest out of any Texas Chainsaw movie, and I love my gore, right? So definitely appreciate that about the film, is that this is filled with gore galore. Also, the portrayal of Leatherface was actually really dang good. This is probably one of my favorite portrayals of Leatherface. And it does take a different approach to the Texas Chainsaw formula. However, it is still very much just the same stuff we have been getting throughout this entire franchise. Also, when it tries shoving down the commentary, when it tries doing commentary and stuff, it falls flat on its face and feels super forced. And the way they just rip off Halloween 2018 doesn't feel earned at all in this movie. It's not like, yeah, Sally Hardesty's coming back, this is gonna be epic. No, it's not epic at all. It's just cool. Thanks. Coming in 4th place is probably the most unpopular placement on this list, but that's going to be Texas Chainsaw 3D. A lot of people hate this movie. I understand every criticism to this movie. It is not a good movie by any means, but it is so entertaining. I've watched this movie twice. Both times I've been entertained as hell throughout the entire thing. I just find this movie entertaining. I understand every criticism to this movie about the plot holes, of like the timeline not working, the really cringy lines of dialogue in this movie, the dumb plot twists. I acknowledge all that stuff. But I just think this movie is so much fun. I don't know. This movie is just fun and entertaining. It's a really good Leatherface, in my opinion, and has some pretty nice kills, and is quite different from all the other Texas Chainsaw movies, breaks the formula. So, yes, this is a movie I thoroughly enjoy. Top 3. As far as I'm concerned, there's a three-way tie for first place in this franchise. All 3 of these films, I think, are equally as good in varying degrees, or not varying degrees, but in their own way. They are all equally good. They all have different strengths and weaknesses. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyways. But at the end of the day, I can't just have 3 first place. I have to put a number on all of them. So, coming in 3rd place is going to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. This movie is probably the most fun in the series. It's definitely the funniest in the series, if that's what they're going for. But this movie's just entertaining as hell, man. It is so crazy and wacky, and all the characters are just so out there and memorable that I really enjoyed watching this movie, and I was intrigued the entire time. So, yeah. There are certainly some things in this movie where it feels a little bit too much like a rehash of the original in some aspects. The ending shot of this movie, I think, is horrendous and so cringy. That ending, I just did not like at all. But otherwise, yeah, this is probably the most entertaining movie in this entire franchise. Coming in 2nd place is going to have to be the 1974 original, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is one of the few movies that I hated the first time I watched and then rewatched it later, and I really enjoyed it. It's not necessarily a movie I would say I would love, but I certainly appreciate what it did for the genre, and I really do appreciate this film. Genuinely creepy. This is the most creepy and unsettling movie out of the whole franchise. And adding on to that, this is the most creepy and unsettling performance of Leatherface in the whole franchise. The whole ending to this movie is iconic, and just like, Leatherface swinging his chainsaw around and stuff. Oh, I love that ending. It's also an ending where the villain wins. Sally does not win in this movie because she just gets broken mentally from being with this family, the Sawyers, and they win over her, and they cause her to just dive so deep into madness while they just keep on existing. So the evil wins in this movie, and I am all on board for that. But coming in first place, surprisingly, is going to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake from 2003. Dang, I was surprised at how much I liked this movie. Since I was, I liked the original, I was kind of like, okay. Remakes have a wishy-washy tendency on if they're going to be good or not, and this one, I think, holds up right up there with the original. Well, obviously, I put it above the original, so I think it's better than it slightly, but yeah, Leatherface in this movie, so intimidating and scary. I love, like, the color scheme of this movie, how it's, like, dark and dirty and, like, grimy and just icky. Oh, it's a great tone for one of these movies. And it has a really nice third act as well. I thought the third act in this movie is one of the best in the series. Yeah, some negatives is I don't think the sheriff character was that great. I don't know, I've just never liked Sheriff Hoyt. That's his name, right? I don't know, I just don't like him in this movie. Didn't like him in Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning. And then also, the ending to this movie is kind of like, I don't know, it just kind of, I could take or leave it, honestly. Not as good as the ending to that original 1974 original, but it's decent. Not, they could have done worse, right? That's what I'm trying to say, they could have done worse. Yeah. So that's my ranking for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The next ranking video that is set in stone is going to be ranking all the live-action Batman movies when the Batman comes out in 2 weeks. So stay tuned for that. I guess if you aren't subscribed, go ahead and click that subscribe button so you can see that epic video when that drops. Thank you, and have a wonderful day. Whoop whoop.